Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer. He goes by Cris Carter. This right here is Nick Wright. On the show today, Aaron Rodgers is actually having fun this season. Go figure. Freddie Kitchens is digging in, says he will not give up play calling. And fans were calling for a quarterback change in Washington last night, just a few weeks into the start of the season. That's where we begin Monday Night Football. Washington looking for their first win on the year, hosting the Chicago Bears, and this one wasn't close. Bears up as many as 25 at the half, went on to win 31-15, and that Bears defense did not make things easy on Case Keenum. Keenum throwing 3 interceptions, lost 2 fumbles, and had to hear fans chanting Dwayne Haskins midway through the game. Head coach Jay Gruden was asked about a quarterback change after the loss.
Jay, you're 0-3. You drafted a quarterback in the first round. Is there a chance that you can make a switch at that position?
Not really, no. I think the most important thing is we have to have some continuity. You know, I can't be changing people every 5 minutes here. So I think Case, I got to give Case an ample opportunity to play with these new guys. I mean, this is his first time in this offense, really. You know, Donald Penn, Eric Flowers, their first time in this offense. You know, Trey Quinn only played 2 games last year. I made this point before. We're not going to be perfect, but we need to be better, and I think we can get better. Otherwise, if I didn't think we had a chance to get better, then I would make a change. But I feel like Case has the tools to become a very efficient quarterback in this offense and get us some victories here moving forward.
Jay Gruden saying he wants to be consistent. They're pretty consistent 3 weeks into the season, perhaps not the way they want to be. See, does Washington need to make the switch to Haskins at this point, or is it too early?
I believe it's too early. I think that Jay makes a good point as far as if you look at the overall continuity as far as NFL offenses. Has Case really had a good opportunity? Because he wasn't supposed to be the starter. Colt McCoy was penciled to be the starter. Now he got hurt, and now Case took over for him. And now with Haskins in the wings, it's still early in the season. I wouldn't panic. Wholesale changes on that offensive line. And if I'm concerned about the offensive line, why would I put the kid in there, allow him to get hit, where I can wait 8, 9, 10 games? Like, there is no exacta that I have to bring in the first-round pick in the first month of the season. But as Nick, as we talk about all the time, if you draft him in the first round, he's going to play at some point. And for me, I believe that Case hadn't played enough football. With the changes on the offensive line, you got new receivers. They should give this a little more time. I don't see it lasting more than probably another month. But if we get to 5, 6 games into the season, you're 4 or 5 games out of first place already, then it would be time for Haskins. I wouldn't rush him in there right now.
I get why, in theory, they wouldn't do it this week, even though you have a Giants defense that can be had coming up. If for no other reason than you played on a Monday night. So it's a shorter week than you usually would have, one less day of preparation. But the longer they wait to make the inevitable switch to Dwayne Haskins, the more time is wasted. I mean, Jay Gruden at this point, he and Dan Quinn are the dueling coaches right now, coaching for their jobs, not over the course of the year, but over the course of the next month, over the course of the next 6 weeks. And if you're a Washington fan, a Washington team that I think last night fell in its franchise history to 2-17 on Monday Night Football, and you look at the last, 20-some years of Washington football, you've had one season of real hope, one glimmer of, wait, maybe it'll be different. And that got blown up the moment RG3's knee got tragically blown up in that playoff game. And you drafted Haskins knowing who you had at the quarterback position, knowing that Case Keenum, aside from that magical year in Minnesota where he had a top 2 defense, maybe the best pair of wide receivers in the league, a solid coaching staff, when he was solid. Aside from that year, Case Keenum's been a backup-level quarterback in this league. And if 5 turnovers on Monday Night Football, just giving the game away to Chicago. Chicago got their offense going late, but early on they didn't need it because there's a pick six going the other way. It was Case Keenum doing a Statue of Liberty to Khalil Mack repeatedly. If that's not going to be enough, then what would be enough? And you do wonder if this harkens back to before the season, when around the draft you heard within the Washington organization, front office really liked Haskins, coaching staff not so much, because if you're a bad team and you don't have a franchise quarterback starting, this is when you make the change. Not so different than what the New York Giants did this past week, going from Eli, who obviously is a hell of a lot more entrenched than Case Keenum,
Sure,
to Daniel Jones. They're going to make the change eventually. I'm not sure what is gained by delaying.
Yeah, I think if we put him in right now, we're overreacting. If you look at their schedule, look at the teams that they've played. Potentially 3 playoff teams, right? Who
Philadelphia, Dallas, Chicago.
Okay, so they probably had the toughest schedule that we've seen. It is true that Case, it's his first year in the offense. And if we're being fair to him, now I know that there's rumors. There's always rumors as far as the football people are split, the other people are split. You know, there's one player, but we have 2 different feelings about it. There might be going on but Haskins, to me, with that unpredictable offensive line, they haven't been able to run the ball. Are we doing Haskins a favor by keeping him out, allowing him to watch? I don't believe we're doing Haskins' career any harm by having him watch what's going on, sit there, and then, once the season is out of reach, then get him some reps. That's been the more successful recipe compared to, I'm getting ready to put him in there, he's getting ready to get battered, and especially against Chicago. I'm not putting him there against Chicago, so I'm going to wait a little more time. It's a long season, and with all the replacement players that they're playing with and young receivers, it's hard on Haskins. I believe you're putting him in an environment that's not the most conducive for him to be able to try to get some wins and get some positive play up under his belt.
On the other side of the ball, Mitch Trubisky, after a real sluggish, slow start to the season, promised that he'd come out with a little more energy and firepower, and they delivered. I don't know how much of that is who their competition was, but they finally put together the game that we thought this team could be. What did you see from Trubisky last night?
Trubisky still has me nervous because I see the play calling, and I know, regardless of what they say in the press conference, I can tell how much confidence the coach has in the quarterback based on when do they throw, where do they throw, and how often they throw. Are they attacking the field? We watch, and I know we're all consumed with Patty Mahomes. We should be. Watch Andy Reid the way he calls plays. The way he sends receivers into the routes is if I know I have a guy that can deliver the ball in different spots and no worries. No, that's not what I see from Matt Nagy, the head coach, who I believe is a really good coach and a good play caller who is restricted based on the inconsistency of Trubisky passing the ball. Yes, he's mobile. Yes, he can get out of some trouble. But his inability to be able to consistently deliver the ball in the pocket, it has me concerned as far as the Bears with the Vikings, an underrated Detroit team, and the Packers all being in that division. That's probably the toughest division in football.
Matt Nagy, by the way, an Andy Reid disciple. Just quickly on Trubisky. Going into last night's game, teams that were +4 in the turnover battle in NFL history are 46 0-1. The Washington last night was -4. They weren't going to win the football game. If the Bears have adequate, average, 14th best in the league quarterback play, they can win the Super Bowl. If they get quarterback play like that from Mitch Trubisky throughout the year, they can win the Super Bowl. That defense is monstrous. The concern is, do they have the 24th best quarterback in football or worse? I'm not going to overreact to what Mitch did after the defense gave him short field after short field, defensive score.
Yep.
So many advantages. It would have been criminal for Chicago to lose that game last night. At no point did you think they could. That was, to me, more about their defense and Washington's ineffectiveness.
Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 world's most ethical companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting, that's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for your future, or visit www.pacificlife.com. Welcome back. We'll get to the Cowboys in just a second. But first, little Bears, Redskins, Monday Night Football action. Khalil Mack swatting down a ball out of Keenum's hand for the strip sack.
I mean,
he's so good.
He had 2 of these last night, 2 strip sacks again. A national television Khalil Mack is like Hoodie Mello, man. It just brings a whole nother version out of him, see?
Yeah, and he wasn't happy how he started the season. That first game against Green Bay didn't have the type of impact. But it's one of my favorite plays. Strip sack, so you get the sack, the fumble.
Forced fumble, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Scoop and score. It's the old quad.
More Monday Night Football. Taylor Gabriel
crazy.
pulling off an unreal toe tap that was ruled incomplete, but then overturned for the touchdown.
I'm no big fan of review. I got to say, credit to the NFL officials in the review process here. In real time, this did not look like it was good.
No.
Upon review, you see, okay, that foot's down, and then, oh, he hits the pylon. That means you're in. Great job by them there.
Also giving him control. I thought when the ball was only in his right hand, they were going to be like, no control.
I liked it.
Washington's Terry McLaurin rises to make a tough catch across the middle for a touchdown.
Man, my man Cris Carter out here gambling wizard. Fox bet before the game, bet on Terry McLaurin. Who? This guy to score a touchdown, plus 250. Pay me my money, Cris Carter.
Yeah.
Well, you got me money. You
was not a starter at Ohio State. 3rd-round draft pick, now starting, told me this summer that he was going to be a starter. Having a sensational, scored week 1, week 2, and week 3.
How about that?
Got to start betting. In the CFL, Eskimos taking on Tiger Cats. Edmonton's Greg Ellensing holding on for an unbelievable touchdown grab here.
Oh, yeah, he's a good receiver. He's been playing a long time in the CFL, a possession receiver, playing in the slot. If he was in the NFL,
for New England.
Yeah, of course he'd be playing for New England and would have been the MVP of the last Super Bowl. Great catch. Underrated athleticism.
Let's put him in the Hall of Fame with Edelman.
Well, yeah, up there, he can be in the Hall, yeah. I mean,
something like
this
that.
ain't the NBA.
All right, moving on to the Dallas Cowboys now. One of 8 teams to start the year undefeated this season. While Jerry Jones lives for this hype, others aren't buying it wholesale. NFL writer Bill Barnwell says the Cowboys are going to decline as the season goes along and as their schedule gets tougher. The 3 teams Dallas has played so far have combined for 1 win and 8 losses. CC, you buying the Cowboys are as good as their 3-0 start?
Well, this is the thing. People early in the season, it's always puzzling to me, especially in the NFL. It's not college football. It's not Alabama. It's not Clemson playing against some coastal schools. It's the NFL. And every year we go through this scheduling. Sometimes you get a little better draw, but for the most part, everyone's schedule is difficult. Unless you're playing the AFC East. Now, you're getting some gifts, all right? The Jets quarterback got mono. Belichick might have sent that to him with Demaryius Thomas. We know they're just constantly rebuilding. But the schedule is what it is. The Dallas Cowboys and their ability to be able to throw the ball down the field with Dak Prescott, his improved passing ability with the addition of Randall Cobb and their wide receivers. If you look at them from an offensive standpoint, you say, wow, is that legitimate? Regardless of who they're playing. I believe it to be legitimate, just like Lamar Jackson there in Baltimore, him throwing the ball. I believe that's legitimate. So for me, when I'm looking at Dallas, yes, their schedule is going to get tougher, but this is a good football team that was limited in what they could do last year, and their quarterback has improved. So I like Bill Barnwell. He does some good stuff. Yes, their schedule, that's obvious. But to me, the obvious part is this is transferable. You think this is not going to help when they play Philadelphia a couple times? Dak being able to throw the ball like that? Yes, absolutely. So for me, I don't believe Ezekiel Elliott's going to be as worn out later in the season because they have a variety of different styles of how they can win the game, which we have not seen in Dak's 3 previous years. When Zeke didn't run or Zeke was out of the lineup, they struggled. To me, this is a different offense.
So I want to talk about Dak in a moment, but first to expand on your schedule point, because Bill does talk about that. There's 7 3-0 teams in football right now. And while there are no citadels you get to play in the NFL, all 3-0s aren't created equal. And I think people would say Green Bay, at Chicago, Minnesota, Denver, or take the Rams. They've beaten Carolina, New Orleans, Cleveland. Those 3-0 have a little more meat to them than the 3-0 Buffalo has. Jets, Giants, Bengals. The 3-0 Dallas has that we've talked about. Giants, Washington, Miami. And so the schedule context does matter in this regard. Even if Dallas hadn't played really well, they probably could and should be 3-0, given you got the Giants with Eli, Washington with whatever they're doing, and the Miami Dolphins. But just because they've played inferior competition should not cloud this fact. They have played really well on both sides of the football. I would argue, aside from the first half against Miami, they've played really exceptional football throughout this entire season thus far. First half against Miami, they came out a little sleepy, maybe as teams might do if they start to underestimate or maybe properly estimate the Dolphins, and they still beat them by 25 points, shut them out in the second half. But the question for the Cowboys will be, throughout the year, how much do you believe in the quarterback? The defense, worst case scenario, is going to be above average. Best case scenario, going to be very good. The offensive line is healthy and playing extraordinary. Zeke is Zeke. They have the best total receiving core they have had in years in Dallas. So it is, how good is Dak Prescott? Thus far through 3 weeks, he's been one of the 2 best quarterbacks in football. Statistically speaking, only Mahomes has been better. Lamar had been better. Lamar took a step backwards this week. Skip pointed this out yesterday. I think it's a good point. Dak in the second half of games this year, 29 of 32. That's pretty damn good. Dak has been doing everything he has been asked to do. And so if you think that's a mirage, you're still going to discount the Cowboys. We're going to get to see over the next 2 weeks when they play the Saints and the Packers as far as how does Dak deal with a good pass rush. He hasn't had to face that. How does he deal with pressure in his face? He hasn't had to face that. But thus far, you can only pass the tests that you are asked to take. And the Cowboys have passed every test so far this season with flying colors. You have to give them credit for that. And when you're talking about them in totality of the season, what also matters is the Eagles are struggling. And the Cowboys, 11-5, where you win the division, and 11-5, where you're the wild card, are 2 drastically different seasons as far as your ability to go deep in the postseason. And that's where how Philadelphia plays factors into this.
I think your point is such a good one, though. He's been able to do this without the team having to rely on Ezekiel Elliott, where last year he was the bulk of their offense. We're coming into this season, we talked about, well, Ezekiel Elliott, without Zeke, what's Dak going to do? And just seeing what Dak was able to do, regardless of who the competition is, you're right, getting the ball downfield, being able to work the offense, and with a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterbacks coach, I think that gives you a lot of positivity looking to the future with this team.
To me, if we're looking at the natural growth of young quarterbacks compared to, let's microwave them, Baker Mayfield last year, now coming back this year. You want that natural, steady growth that we have. And you bring up a good point. What about the new coaches that he's dealing with? What about a new quarterback coach in John Kitna? Are we going to give the kid credit for that? What about Kellen Moore, a guy who has not proven as a play caller with Dak? And the biggest obstacle that no one's talking about, what about this kid performing under pressure with that big contract laying on the table? And 3 times he risked his pro career going out there, jeopardizing what, $100 million guaranteed, Nick?
If not more.
So
Absolutely.
For me, I see this gradual progression of a guy who's getting better at his job, and people want to discredit it. And there's a lot of things going on around him behind the scenes that lets you know the type of leader he is, the way he can put things in certain compartments and be able to go out there on the field and play with. Everyone can't do that. So for me, I'm very impressed with Dak Prescott. I thought he would grow as a quarterback. He's even grown more than I had anticipated.
And the Cowboys not only have to stack wins early during the softer part of their schedule, they have to put on film a bunch of different ways to beat you, because they have a stretch later in the year where they play 6 straight games, and 5 of them are against maybe the 5 best defenses in football. They have Minnesota, Detroit, New England, Buffalo, Chicago, and the Rams. If you go into that stretch where the tape says stop Zeke and you win, then they are going to be at such a disadvantage when they hit the meat of their schedule as far as defenses they have to face. That doesn't even include the 2 times they got to play Philly. That doesn't include Green Bay in a couple weeks. Dallas will be tested. Dallas does not have a cakewalk schedule this season. Dallas just has had a cakewalk schedule thus far, but ultimately, all of the Cowboys conversations are going to circle back to how good do you think number 4 is? If you think he is a great quarterback, you probably think they can go to the Super Bowl.
Look, if they can get through this first stretch of the season, they've already got 3 wins. They play New Orleans, right? If they can get to 4-0, typically you can map out the rest of the season. That's the first quarter of the season. If the second quarter of the season, say they go 3-1, 3-1, and say the last month they go 2-2.
That's 12 wins.
Okay, we sitting pretty nice. So that's why it's important. If you can bank one of those quarters and get 4-0, because I don't think they're going to be able to go 4-0 in that stretch the other way. So this New Orleans game against Teddy, if they can get that win, I believe it will pay huge dividends, not only as far as the head-to-head, Nick, but as far as trying to get that home field advantage, because I believe it's going to take at least 12 wins to get that.
And with how well Dak's playing, it now looks like they would have been okay in this stretch without Zeke. But this is why, before the year, we talked about the perils of Zeke's holdout, because it was so critical that the Cowboys go 3-0 to start the season. It was so critical that they bank those wins to start the season, and they got a little luck in that. That very tough game in New Orleans is different now that Drew Brees is out for these 6 weeks, gives them a real chance to get to that 4-0.
And while they probably didn't need Zeke, the threat of Zeke has been good enough to take some of the defenses and open it up for Dak Prescott. It's the 100th year of the NFL. How excited are you for this season? NFL players have been coached. Blue light from smart devices can affect your sleep. Wear blue blocker glasses in the evening for improved sleep. Sleep Number beds allow you to adjust on each side to your ideal firmness, comfort, and support. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed senses your movements and automatically adjusts to keep you sleeping comfortably through the night. With Sleep IQ technology inside the bed, it tracks how you're sleeping so you can know every morning how well you've slept that night and gain insights for your best sleep. Experience the smart, effortless comfort of the Sleep Number 360 smart bed. Find your competitive edge with proven quality sleep from $999. Sleep Number is the official sleep and wellness partner of the NFL. You'll only find Sleep Number at one of their 575 Sleep Number stores nationwide. Find the one nearest you at sleepnumber.com/cadence. Time now for Say What? The Eagles fell to the Lions on Sunday, 27-24, your final in that one. And with Philly dropping 7 balls on the day, Eagles fans were not happy. Case in point, former Philly firefighter Hakeem Law, who took a shot at Eagles receiver Nelson Aguilar while being interviewed after a fire rescue Monday morning. Say what?
At that point, that's when I started hearing the fire trucks coming down the street. They was like in the far off distance or whatever like that. Smoke started getting worse. Then I seen a guy hanging out the window, screaming that his kids was in there and things like that. So I ran to the back door to see if it was open, and it was. I ran upstairs, and then I was greeted with smoke. I ran back downstairs. By that time, the ladder truck was pulling up. And ironically, one of my old co-workers took the ladder off the truck, raised it up, and was assisting people down. My man just started throwing babies out the window. Wow. We was catching them, unlike Aguilar.
It just got thrown into everyday speak, like Aguilar.
I love everything about this story. First of all, there were no serious injuries. The fire rescue team did a great job. This guy is unbelievable. Former firefighter runs into a burning building trying to help. Can't help that way, so instead he catches babies. All of it.
What about his overall composure? Life or death situation. Run to the building, realize, hey, smoke's up here. All right, let me go back down. Got some experience. I told you, Nick, sometimes it's not the fire that kills you, it's the smoke.
It's the smoke. That is confirmed, scientifically accurate.
You and I know this. Eagles fans are brutal. But wait, hold on. It gets better. So Aguilar was a good sport about it, tweeting, "Thank you for being a hero in the community. Would like to invite you and your family to the next home game. Twitter, help me out and get me in touch with him."
That's a great. This is just an awesome story. In a time of awful, every time I check Twitter, I'm like, oh my God, that happened. This is a great story. All of it. Nobody hurt in the fire. The baby's saved. This guy gets to be famous for a little bit. Aguilar's a good sport about it.
Able to poke fun at the Eagles a little bit.
Aguilar looked at the schedule, Nick. He said, next home game, Jets. I should be able to pass the stats in that game. Okay, let me bring the former firefighter to that game.
Smart. Heady play.
Played that one forward a little bit.
Yeah, he still might boo you now.
No doubt. Question.
No doubt.
Dude looked into the camera. I love the eye contact.
Aguilar.
Post and everything. Time for stories to start your morning. Last night, Mitch Trubisky was impressive in the win over Washington. Completed 81% of his passes, tossed 3 touchdowns. 28 of the Bears' points came in the first half. Nick, what'd you make of Trubisky?
Man, I feel like we just keep lowering the bar for the guy who was taken second overall pick in front of Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson.
If you stop saying that, then it doesn't sound as bad.
Okay, but he's going to be tied to those two guys forever. Yeah. And listen, the story of this game was Eddie Jackson was Clinton Dix, not Eddie Jackson with his pick six, was Khalil Mack causing mayhem. Trubisky had a few nice throws, particularly the one that got overturned and turned into a touchdown. They need this not to be an outlier event for their future, in theory, franchise quarterback. If that happens, then they can go to the Super Bowl.
We know Chicago's a good team. But is their quarterback, a lack of having an elite quarterback, preventing them from being great? We like their head coach in Matt Nagy. We love Coach Pagano, the defense coordinator. He's got that defense humming. But the quarterback's got to be able to make plays, especially late in the game. Throws a red zone interception inside the 10. Those are things as a young quarterback. And did I mention when he was drafted? Did I mention that?
Oh, yeah. In front of Mahomes and Watson.
I don't know who
Bears wanted him so bad. They were at 3.
I don't know who was doing that scouting.
That ain't great.
On the flip side, my former guy, Case Keenum, not good.
But he joins a long list of former Jenna guys
that are not good. Mediocre white guys.
Not great. He also lost 2 fumbles. Hey, I gave him a long leash, didn't I? However, his head coach, Jay Gruden, said he doesn't plan to make a switch at quarterback anytime soon. Chris, is it time for Washington to start Dwayne Haskins?
No, it's not. And Haskins is my guy, and I'm all for, especially if he's a first-round pick, playing him in the rookie year if he's a quarterback. But they got too many changes going on there in Washington. And hypothetically, I know they're still in the playoff race. I would give it at least another month. Case, this is his first year in Gruden's system. Give him an opportunity because he wasn't supposed to be the starter. Colt McCoy was supposed to be the starter, so don't rush my former Buckeye in there yet. If they sign Trent Williams, though, then I want Haskins in there. But until he comes back and some other things get worked out, I prefer for Case to get all the blame for now.
If Jay Gruden doesn't make this switch soon, he's not going to be the one to make the switch. The interim head coach of Washington is going to make the switch because Jay Gruden's going to get fired. They have the Giants this week, then the Patriots. You go to 0-5 when you are already on the super hot seat. If you can't beat old Danny Dimes and the Giants, you know you're not beating the Patriots. You might not get a chance to get your first win against the Dolphins in Week 6. They're delaying the inevitable with Haskins. Maybe it's best for him, but I'd say let the kid play because we know who Case Keenum is. We've always known who Case Keenum is, and it ain't great.
And if he really was in love with Danny Dimes before the draft, then made him sick to see him play on Sunday.
That's a good point.
All right, moving on to the Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton has already been ruled out for Week 4 against the Texans. Kyle Allen will make his second start of the season, hoping to follow up on a great Week 3 win over Arizona. Nick, what do you make of this latest news?
2 things. One is a prediction for this television show. Kyle Allen is about to skyrocket up the list of Jenna Wolfe favorite quarterbacks. Put a little pin in that. She's already decided he's better.
But he was a blue chipper, though, in high school. That might be. He has 2 more stars than she likes.
Okay, fair enough. And so just put a little pin in that little prediction. Of course you do. It can't. Listen, Kyle Allen played well enough that the Panthers can do this. Wait until Cam is fully healthy. Not he's 70%, try to trot him out there. As long as Kyle Allen can hold the fort, wait until Cam's foot is all the way healed, and then see what Cam Newton looks like.
Yeah, the reason why they made this announcement early is because Cam, you know he's into fashion. Him and his designer, they wanted to figure out when do they pop these outfits with these hats and everything. So they didn't have anything prepared for this weekend. So he's going to be low-key, no press conference, no hat, none of that stuff. So that's all. He's just getting his fashion stuff together for that stretch run when he's back to being a starter. And his outfits will be a highlight of that.
And a winnable NFC South, by the way. Atlanta stinks. Tampa's not very good.
All right, Daniel Jones' first NFL start, arguably the biggest story coming out of the NFL Week 3. After throwing more than 300 yards, scoring 4 total touchdowns, Daniel Jones jumping past Kyler Murray as the favorite to win Rookie of the Year, that according to Fox Bet. Recency bias. See, who has a better shot to win Rookie of the Year, Jones or Kyler?
Well, this is the thing. I know with the Cardinals, they're going to throw close to 300 yards almost every game. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, and talking to Larry Fitzgerald, he's very, very happy with the system. And they're able to get open, and Kyler can flat out just throw it. So I think he's going to be in a situation where he's going to compile a lot more yards. They don't need a running game. David Johnson has not helped him out. I believe with Barkley being hurt, that it's going to hurt the overall development of Daniel Jones. So I would still lean to Kyler because the system, once they get behind, he's going to compile a whole bunch of yards, a whole bunch of touchdowns. I don't think he's going to throw touchdown to interception the way quarterbacks typically do as rookies. Might throw 15 touchdowns, 15. I don't believe Kyler's going to do that. So I would say Kyler has the edge because he's just going to put up so many yards. I believe he'll throw for at least 3,500, 3,800 yards this year.
Well, so Arizona obviously took a step back this week. They played their worst game of the season against Carolina, both sides of the ball. And I think that, combined with how well Daniel Jones plays, that speaks to your recency bias. It might not be relevant for this conversation, but just a quick note, Hollywood Brown should be the favorite. I think he'd be the smart bet right now if a non-quarterback's allowed to win the award. But set that aside for a moment. People maybe overreacted to the moment Daniel Jones was drafted. And now, in faster time than I can remember, people, I think, are overreacting in the other direction. Folks were rescinding their Daniel Jones predictions in the preseason, let alone how well he played in the regular season. See, you always poke fun that I steal things from you on the radio show I do. Man, you had Giants fans call the radio show last night saying, other than Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, not a quarterback in the league I'd trade Daniel Jones for. Not Dak, not Baker, not Goff, not Kyler. Okay. He was great in week one. I cannot take anything away from him. If he proves me wrong, I will be the first to admit, hey, man, missed on him. I've missed on quarterbacks before. I thought Johnny Manziel was going to be great in this league. I've missed on quarterbacks before. But 1 week does not make a career. We sat here with Coach Mangini last year. We're 12 weeks. For Patrick Mahomes, he was like, let's pump the brakes, let's wait. This is 1 week against a bad defense in a game that he would have had the same game and they could have lost it if Tampa simply makes a 34-yard field goal. I don't think Kyler Murray's going to have a great season, but I'm also not ready. And it's whether you think Kyler's going to be great or not. Don't have a great offensive line. Don't have a great running game. He's going to have some structural disadvantages. But I'm not ready to anoint Daniel Jones having a great season either. He had a great first game, and you have reason for optimism. But I'm not yet ready to change how I felt about him a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, didn't Marcus Mariota also play the Bucs in his first debut, have an amazing game?
I think he had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, and then everything kind of just sort of leveled itself out. Who are you more excited for? Who's got a better future built around them, better pieces built around them to succeed?
Well, I would have to say the Giants because they have Saquon. I mean, he's an outstanding running back. He is going to be one of the top runners in the league, say 8 to 10 years. He's a great team guy. He's not a me guy. So I think that helps stabilize. The Giants have made such poor decisions. I'm apprehensive. So you think, okay, the Bidwells in Arizona, the Giants and the Mara family, the Tisches in here in New York. Is that really a battle? But I would just say because they've done it longer, I don't know how much ground Steve Keim has as general manager there in Arizona. I would have to go with the stability of the Giants. And the Giants made a great pick. If he continues, he has the type of skills. You can see him throwing the ball. You can see the game's not moving too fast for him, that he is an NFL starting quarterback. Now, I would just slow down a little bit. Jersey sales this weekend out the roof. First time, I think, Patty Mahomes since he became a starter. Daniel Jones, he rivaled Patty Mahomes this weekend.
For jersey sales?
For jersey sales.
Yeah, listen, people are excited. And Giants fans, you should be excited. This is probably the most hope Giants fans have had since early in the 2012 season. When you were coming off the second Super Bowl, and it's like, hey, how good can we be? It's been a long time in the wilderness with Eli Manning. I'm not trying to dampen the excitement. But you don't have Saquon the next probably 6 weeks, maybe longer. That's going to hurt his ability to be effective. Golden Tate comes back in a couple weeks. But both these quarterbacks are trying to be one of ones in NFL history. We've never had a quarterback Kyler's height, succeed in the NFL. We've never had a quarterback with Daniel Jones's college production succeed in the NFL. They might both break the mold, but they are both trying to break the mold. One, because of size, despite amazing college production. One, against college production, despite prototypical height and measurables. We'll see how it plays out. I think they're both going to have tough weekends to come, maybe as soon as this weekend. Stop what you're doing and look down at your left wrist, because our friends at Movement Watches have got exactly what you're missing. Movement has you covered with tons of quality, clean, and all-around good-looking watches and accessories that we can actually afford and order right from our couch. Do your wrist and wallet a favor. Go check out their minimalist designs that you can have with no risk, because they offer free shipping and returns. With over 2 million watches sold worldwide, Movement has solidified themselves as one of the fastest growing watch brands out there. They also have tons of sunglasses and offer interchangeable watch straps, so you never run out of options for a new look. Movement watches start at just $95, so you're guaranteed to find something you love that won't break your bank. Get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to movement.com/first. See why Movement keeps growing. Check out their expanding collection. Go to mvmt.com/first. Join the movement.
All right, let's move on. Talk some Cleveland Browns. After a preseason of hype, the Browns have been humbled rather quickly this season. The offense averaging just 16 points per game, tied for 27th in the league, and off to a 1-2 start. Pick your reason why. That offensive line, Baker Mayfield, the play calling. Well, after Sunday's loss to the Rams, Freddie Kitchens said he alone was to blame. When asked yesterday if he was planning to give up play calling duties, he said, quote, "That's not even feasible." See, how can the Browns offense get better?
Well, last year we had a tremendous amount of questions when they fired Hugh, and then we thought, oh, okay, Todd Haley is going to take over, run the offense. We're confident that his move didn't work. He ends up getting fired, too, the same day. Freddie Kitchens, he's a running back coach. They named him the play caller, and I didn't know a whole bunch about Freddie Kitchens. It's not like he had this long resume from this great coaching tree that he had come from. And seeing what they did, immediately they changed that offense, the offensive line. They allowed them to become more physical. They got Chubb the ball. They started running the ball. They started not targeting Jarvis Landry 12 times a game. That dropped down to 7. I was like, these are some of the basics ingredients to trying to solidify an offensive football team, make it simple for their rookie quarterback, spread the ball around, and it had tremendous promise. It had so much promise that in the interview search, Freddie Kitchens won that. And John Dorsey, I have more confidence in John Dorsey because he's a known commodity compared to Freddie Kitchens. So I appropriated my faith to Dorsey into Freddie Kitchens. But if I was him, and as far as the locker room's concerned, I wouldn't give up the play calling because he's surrendering power then. And if he does that, what's he going to specialize in?
Right.
Like on the sideline, hey, I'm just a game manager. Like, I'm going to manage the timeouts. I'm going to manage when we go for 2. I'm going to do that. No, he did a good job calling plays last year. Let's not overreact to a couple very questionable calls during the game that they were overmatched from an offensive line standpoint, and I believe he didn't want to drop Baker back one more time on that 4th down, and I believe he had a little brain cramp, and he called that draw on 4th and 9, which I believe hurt his play calling when they got into the red zone, in the plus 10 territory, and they had 4 downs, and they didn't throw it one time there. So he's a young play caller. You make mistakes on the job. Just like players, coaches make mistakes. You hope that they're not as blaring as the couple mistakes that he made in Sunday night's game against the Rams. But he is in training. Like, we can't expect a guy to be an NFL head coach the first time he's been a head coach, and he's going to have it perfect the first time. Even our most experienced coaches that we have, the people that we respect, outside of Belichick, we got Tomlin, Pete Carroll, Andy Reid. All 3 of those guys, we have been critical of them. In-game management, play calling, time management. Let's go back. Tomlin, Oh, yeah, now they're a throwing team with no defense. Pete Carroll, you threw the ball on the goal line in the Super Bowl.
And Andy Reid still gets it
historically has been bad in the playoffs. So let's just slow a little bit on Freddie. He is learning on the job.
And you mentioned aside from Belichick, I think Browns fans would say Belichick had some issues his first go-around, even before he became Bill Belichick. If you take the play calling away from Freddie Kitchens, he's a man without a country. That's why I'm going to assume Freddie Kitchens used the exact word he meant to use there, feasible. He didn't say it's not likely. He didn't say that's foolish. Not feasible means it can't happen. We do not have a protocol in place for that to happen. It's impossible because that is what he was hired for. And this is sometimes you do. I feel like this is what happened with Arizona, with Cliff Kingsbury. They hired him to call plays. They wanted him to call plays, and they made him the head coach to do it. I think in Cincinnati, Zach Taylor, similar situation. We hired you to be an offensive mastermind. We gave you the head coaching job because if we didn't, someone else would. And so that is the same thing with Freddie Kitchens. He might be in way over his head, but you can't 3 weeks in take away the primary reason you gave him this job as the head coach.
Yes, lean on the rest of the staff. All right, we know that the defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, he's coming over after being a head coach for a short period of time. Lean on him. The in-game management stuff, lean on the rest of your staff that they can relieve you of some of those things. Critical situations, fourth down, two-point conversions, and calling all those plays. Freddie's got to keep doing that, Jenna.
And rely on the fact that you have one of the most skilled offenses in the league as far as positions and talent goes. You just have to figure out, as he said in his own words, how to deal with it and how to spread the ball around. Back here, first things first, with former All-Pro running back Brian Westbrook. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Good morning.
Brian spent a tough weekend at the Eagles game.
Yeah.
You brought your whole family to witness that. I'm so sorry. But you had fun?
My son was cheering the entire game. He was cheering for the Lions. He was cheering for the Eagles. Whoever was on the field, he was cheering for.
How old is he?
Absolutely.
How old is he?
He's two.
He's two.
He's just happy to be there.
He's just happy to be there.
All right, let's talk some Packers. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, now 3-0 for the first time since 2015. Great start for a team that's missed the playoffs in back-to-back seasons, and for a quarterback who's been riddled with nagging injuries during that stretch. But this year, Rodgers is liking the vibe around this team, and under new head coach Matt LaFleur.
All of us who've been here for a significant amount of time realize how different this feels. It's just a different energy. You know, it is palpable, it's contagious, it's charismatic, and it's fun. It really is. It's been a lot of fun. So it's obviously fun to win. We hold ourselves to a high standard offensively. We got to play better, but it's fun watching those guys on defense, you know. And we got to keep picking up our load and being a little more consistent. But it is a different vibe.
Or in other words, winning cures all. Whatever's going on behind the scenes, if they're winning right now, everybody seems to be happy. What was your reaction to what Aaron Rodgers had to say?
I think you're absolutely right. You can't tell in that video, but I think he is happy. They've played two of the toughest defenses in the league so far, Chicago and Minnesota, and they've won all of those games, even when they played Denver. I think this team is building a good foundation. I think they're putting in place all the things that you need to win. Number one, they're protecting the quarterback. The Green Bay Packers are tied for the most time in the pocket to throw, 3.06. 6 seconds to throw the football. When you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, you have Valdez-Scantling as well as Devontae Adams, and you have that amount of time to throw the football down the field, that's a good thing.
And to your point, Aaron Rodgers said he's never felt so healthy after a game. He's not bruised at all, and they only have a couple days before they play.
That's right. He's not getting beat up. The receivers aren't dropping the football. He's throwing touchdowns and not interceptions. These are all foundation pieces in the first quarter of the season for a veteran quarterback with a new head coach. These are great moments for Aaron Rodgers, and the defense is playing lights out. Most importantly, the defense is playing lights out, and they have their turnover ratio is +6. Yep. That's a great thing. They're getting the ball back to the offense. The one thing that has changed for Aaron Rodgers is that in his first 3 games, he's thrown 93 passes. Last year, he threw 116. They're throwing the ball a lot less. To me, you might throw the ball a lot less. However, you're winning more games. You have a better shot into the playoffs. This is all great things for Aaron Rodgers.
I think that also They made wholesale changes as far as their front office. They've made wholesale changes as far as the type of prospects that they're going after. Not only as far as size, speed, but also what's their personality. Green Bay has been very, very conservative as an organization in the types of players that they want in their locker room. Aaron alluded to that. He said it's charismatic. It's never been charismatic in Green Bay since Reggie White left. All right? That's not the culture that they want. That's not what they're promoting. So that's one thing. It's a defensive-dominated team, even though you have Aaron Rodgers. So there's not pressure on him to throw for 275, 300 every week or to mount these big comebacks. I believe the team is built right, but also if you're going to look at the coach and you're going to judge him, you have to take a snapshot of what they did in Tennessee. I know people said, oh, that was his personnel, but I believe it's his makeup. If you look at Kyle Shanahan, what does he want to do? He wants to be able to run the ball. What does Matt LaFleur, what he wants to do? He wants to be able to run the ball. Play action pass, it's up. Hadn't been this much since 2012 with Aaron Rodgers, and that's only going to get better. Westbrook will tell you here, you can only practice play action pass in the game. You can't practice it in it because you know what the defensive guys do? They look at the call sheet. They know it's a play action. You're faking to the running back, and the linebackers are going backwards. You're like, it's not a real look. So you can't get that until you run the ball, you change people's mentality, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had a little change of pace, that they went empty, that they went no huddle. These are all things they can add as the season goes on. They got a very, very tough schedule, but I like Green Bay. I like this team. I'm going to say this again. Aaron Rodgers with the defense. Sounds like a winning formula to me.
And the reason people should be the most optimistic about the Packers is the offense has not clicked yet. No. And they have not been through. Their 3-0 is not New England's 3-0. It's not Dallas's 3-0 as far as competition. They're all the same in the standings. But at Chicago, home for Minnesota, home for Denver. Now, Denver's not any good, but Minnesota.
That pass protection against Denver. If you just put that in with how they played those other.
100%. Minnesota has not lost except for the game they played the Green Bay Packers. Chicago has not lost except for the game they played the Green Bay Packers. Those are two games that could be important tiebreakers at the end of the season with the division. To be 3-0 and through 3 weeks, they have 860 yards. That's, 267 yards of offense a game? It's not very good. Through 3 weeks, they're 9 of 36 on third down. So in an average game, they're 3 of 12 on third downs. So the pessimist would say, man, the offense isn't clicking. It's not going to click. But if you believe the offense is going to get better, if you believe that Rodgers, after not playing in the preseason and having a new coach and a new system for the first time as a starter, he's just going to be on the uptick. And now he's got the rust knocked off after missing the entirety of preseason, one time due to a bad field, one time because his back tightened up. If you think Rodgers is going to continue to improve, Green Bay has a golden opportunity on a short week against an undermanned Philly team when you play as tough of a first month as anyone in football to be 4-0. Green Bay would have loved to be 3-1 and probably, honestly, when they look at their schedule, new coach, everything, would have taken 2-2 and said, we'll survive it. If they can be 4-0, before the offense really gets going, it speaks to their ability to have home field go through Green Bay for the first time in a long time, to have the type of season we're talking about where Rodgers does not have to be the end-all, be-all for the Packers to be a good football team.
The most important thing for this team is the health of Aaron Rodgers. As long as he's healthy, as long as he's upright and they can protect him, this team will figure it out. The offense will get figured out. You can't tell me the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen play this game in a very long time, can't figure it out with Jimmy Graham throwing the ball to someone that's 6'6" that can jump out of the gym. He is going to figure it out. It may take some time. They may have to run the ball a little bit, but because that defense is so good, they'll give him a lot of opportunity.
No, and you and I were talking before the show about who the identity of this offense is. Is it going to be a running team? But is it going to be Aaron Rodgers and everyone else? What's the system that's going to eventually come out of Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur? But I guess it's okay to take some time to figure that out because their defense is keeping them in games.
Yeah, they want to have multiple ways to be able to win games. Right now, they're establishing the physicality. That offensive line, Pro Football Focus always has them rated as one of the better offensive line. But to me, I thought they were overrated because they weren't great run blockers. That starts with an attitude. That starts with how you're going to practice. The Packers have changed up how they practice. They've been very finesse throughout the years, no contact at practice. The practices now are far more physical, so it takes some time for that offense. And what about perception? Look at Freddie Kitchens in his first year as the head coach compared to Matt LaFleur. Thank God he had a defense, because if we were talking about those numbers that he has as an offense, you know what they'd be asking, Jenna?
They ruined Aaron Rodgers.
You want to change the play calling? Are you sure you should be calling plays? So he's very fortunate that he's able to get off to a slow start. Keep riding that defense. Keep riding those turnovers. Keep building up that run game, because Aaron Rodgers and that passing game, to me, I believe will be opened up as the season gets more mature.
They absolutely figure it out.
Back here, Brian Westbrook, the Cowboys, one of 8 teams to start the year undefeated. While Jerry Jones lives for this hype, others aren't buying it wholesale. NFL writer Bill Barnwell says the Cowboys are going to decline as the season goes along and as their schedule gets tougher. The 3 teams Dallas has played so far have combined for 1 win and 8 losses. Brian, are you buying the Cowboys' 3-0 start?
You know, I am buying it, and I wouldn't expect them to be anything other than 3-0. You played Washington, you played the Giants in Miami. You should be 3-0. But I think it's more important that they are continuing to build a foundation. We talk about the foundation with the Packers. The Cowboys are building the foundation. They're developing the quarterback. They're gaining confidence in the quarterback. Dak is building a relationship with his receivers. He's also building confidence within himself. He's getting back to that third step in throwing the football. He's understanding the timing. He's understanding defenses better. By the way, they still have number 21 back there in the back. So whenever he's ready to go, which I think is probably now, and the team needs him, they're going to be able to use him. So, of course, the offense is a top 4 in all of the major categories offensively. This team is building themselves and building the foundation to be a very good football team when they're going to need them better, when they're going to need it even more. Of course, the schedule is going to get tougher. They're going to have to play the Saints, the Packers, the Jets, and the Eagles the next 4 games. They'll have some tougher tests. Yes. However, they built the foundation early, and that's the most important thing for a quarterback with a new offensive coordinator as well as a quarterback coach.
Yeah, there's a number of things in Dallas that if we just said, okay, what if they get their center, Travis Frederick, back, all-pro center? What if he just gets back and he's healthy? Okay, that would probably improve the offense. Well, what if we get Zeke out of Cabo, get him signed to a deal, and get him back running the ball, and we got through the first month of the season, and Nick, he didn't get one of those soft tissue injuries that you were worried about. Okay. Well, what about Dak Prescott? They got a new quarterback coach in John Kitna. All right. Got a new offense coordinator in Kellen Moore. And it seems like Dak has taken that next step, at least one step. To those who were watching might say he took 2 or 3 steps. My man Skip probably says he's running compared to stepping. And those are real concrete things that have happened that, we can't dispute those things. Forget who their opposition was. So Travis Frederick is back. Seems like John Kitna's had a positive impact on Dak. Kellen Moore doesn't seem like the game's too big for him after a short NFL career. Now he's calling plays. And the defense, for the most part, is intact, and they haven't been hurt by their suspensions on their defensive front. You wouldn't say that's an improved Dallas team. I had Dallas in the playoffs, and now I see everything with Dak. Yes, they're one of the elite teams that we do have in the league. Just by those benchmarks right there, it's an improved team from what we saw last year, Nick.
When you looked at the NFC playoff picture, the reason you wouldn't have had Dallas in the playoffs, as I did not, was even if you love Dallas's offensive line, with getting Travis Frederick back, should have gotten back to being one of the best in football, looks like it has. I think everyone agrees Zeke, at worst, is one of the 3 best running backs in football, maybe the best. The defense isn't the Bears' defense, but it is clearly worst-case scenario, an above-average defense. The reason you would have been skeptical at the Cowboys is, all right, Dak versus Rodgers, no. All right, Dak Breeze, no. Dak Goff, maybe not. You go down the list, right? Unless Dak Wentz, no. Unless you were talking Dak Trubisky, when you were thinking about potential playoff teams, Dak Russell Wilson, no. Well, Dak's playing like the best quarterback in the NFC. I want to make this clear. I do not think he's the best quarterback in the NFC, but through 3 weeks, he has been. Through 3 weeks, the only quarterback playing better than him is Patrick Mahomes, who just is continuing to set records. He almost has to be in a separate category for the time being. How sustainable is Dak's level of play? And once it tails off a bit, how much then can Zeke fully he's already fully engaged, but how much better can Zeke get than the 120 yards a game he's averaging the last 2 games? Those are the questions. Because I don't think Dallas is at a negative at the coaching staff anymore. I thought last year, schematically, they didn't have an edge. I think the additions of Kellen Moore and John Kitna through 3 weeks are paying positive dividends. The defense has been solid again. They haven't had bad injury luck like they did last year, losing Travis Frederick before the season. The only reason you would say Dallas is going to win 9 or fewer games is if you think Dak's about to fall off a cliff. If you think that all of a sudden the end is coming for Dak Prescott, but through 3 weeks, and really if you want to go further, through the last now 13 games since Amari Cooper got fully indoctrinated in the offense, he's been excellent.
But, Brian, let me just play devil's advocate and say, look at the competition they played and look at the competition he's going to play. Does that factor into deciding who the Cowboys are going to be moving forward?
Well, of course, you can only play who you're going to play. And I think we understand that. But I think Dak has improved enough. And it's the small things to me that are important. He said this past weekend, I was a little greedy. To me, and he was talking about a passing to throw it down the field, think he got an interception. You can do that against Miami. I have no problem with that. But the Dak that we knew the first 3 years of his career, he wouldn't have been greedy. He wouldn't have pulled up from half court and shot a 3.
Yes.
To me, that's a heat check.
Yep.
That's Steph Curry hit 3 threes in a row, and now he pulls up after half court and shoots a 3. To me, that's a great line for Dak because now you feel comfortable. You don't do that until you feel comfortable in the offense. You understand where the ball should go, and you're doing all the right things. Now he can scale it back a little bit and get into that comfort zone where he needs to be, where he can be positive. He can be a very good asset for this offense, but he also can be explosive down the field. He has the weapons now in the receiving core. To me, this is a different type of Dak Prescott, different type of offense that we should be expecting. And again, they still haven't used Zeke yet.
Well, and that's I felt similarly about the greedy comment because when you're no longer playing the Giants, Washington, and Miami, when you have the stretch of football where in 6 weeks you play the Vikings defense, the Patriots defense, the Bills defense, the Bears defense, and the Rams defense with the Lions mixed in the middle, you're going to have to be greedy at times. There are going to be games where Zeke has 12 carries for 32 yards, where the field is constricted, and you're going to have to take shots. And the biggest concern with Dallas last year was, okay, even if Dak is going to eliminate the mistakes, can he make the big play? I am not yet ready to say definitively yes. What I am ready to say is, other than Lamar Jackson, no quarterback has taken a bigger leap forward from last year to this year than Dak Prescott. And see, you've mentioned it, he's doing it with this contract extension hanging over his head each and every week. I understand he took out the insurance policy. I get that part of it. But there is still immense external pressure for him to be great every single week and for him to stay healthy every single week because you have generational wealth waiting for you to sign on the dotted line. And he has enough confidence in himself. He's like, nope, I think I can push that contract a little bit higher.
There's a number of things that have happened. The schedule is what it is. But say they get to 4-0, they're able to beat the Saints with Teddy Bridgewater being the quarterback. They're 4-0 for the first quarter of the season. B, I said this earlier, man, we break that season down. I do believe they will struggle a month because the schedule is tough. And in that month, they'll be 2-2. But in the other 2 months, after going 4-0, the first quarter of the season, they'll go 3-1. That gets you to 12 wins. That's strong. You're going to play a lot of home games. Now, Green Bay, this year, are they able to put it together? Philadelphia, are they able to recover? But the last thing is, I know Ezekiel Elliott knows this. The people in Dallas know this. He's never lost to Philadelphia anytime he's been on the field. So, yeah, they might have a soft schedule. But the confidence with Dak, the confidence they have in going against Philadelphia, who's the only competition in the NFC East, to me, that sets up Dallas to be able to have a special type of season if they're able to keep their quarterback healthy.
We'll get to Jim Harbaugh in just a second. But first, a little Monday Night Football action. Bears, Redskins, Khalil Mack making headaches for everyone named Gruden.
You rarely see. Oh, great line, Jen. I didn't think about that. He got both Gruden brothers. Great Statue of Liberty play run by Case Keenum there. Unfortunately, was to the outside linebacker for the Chicago Bears. That doesn't work. Mack was a monster again.
Yeah, Coach Pagano's got that Bears defense playing lights out. If they can just, do they have a quarterback, Nick?
On this play, they did.
Here we go. Taylor Gabriel pulling off an unreal toe tap. It was ruled incomplete. It was then overturned, and this was a touchdown.
Look at that. Just the scraping the pylon makes it a touchdown.
They had me on this one. Me and Austin sitting around watching the game. I was like, oh, man, Austin, that's out because his hand came off the ball. It's almost like the Dez Bryant where the catch starts all over. But they were like, no, when it was in his right hand, he still had control. Nice catch.
Austin was like, see, I told you. Next, Washington's.
No, he didn't say that. He don't like to say that around his stepdaddy. He probably told his buddies when he later on. Dude, think he knows
Terry
something about football.
McLaurin rises to make a tough catch across the middle for the touchdown. Who, Nick?
Terry McLaurin, I'll be honest, I'm not very familiar with his work. However, Cris Carter was. Cris Carter on the old Fox Bet app told America bet him at plus 250 to score a touchdown.
250.
And I'll be damned, I didn't know Washington was going to score any touchdowns. They did. Terry McLaurin had it. Ohio State product, catching bunch touchdowns from Dwayne Haskins in the past, right?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe some in the
By
future.
the way, from Indianapolis, a 3-star recruit. We developed him. He didn't start at Ohio State. That's how bad we developed him. Now he's starting in the league.
A little CFL action. Eskimos taking on Tiger Cats. This is Edmonton's Greg Ellingson holding on. Nice touchdown.
Now, this is the Wes Welker. This is the Julian Edelman of the CFL. Dude's had a nice career. Good little athlete, plays in the slot. Yeah, Nick.
I want to tell the audience something real quick. Chris's son plays in the CFL. Chris
Yeah, and my nephew is a
and
wide
his
receiver.
nephew. Chris watches a lot of CFL football. Chris not just saying this because it's a white dude wearing number 82 doing these things. It's because of how he plays.
Yeah, his nickname in high school was White Lightning. For real.
For real? I think you made that up.
On
think that
to
one was a
Jim
lie.
Harbaugh.
Any white dude fast, his
White
nickname.
Lightning.
White Lightning.
Yeah, no problem. I got it.
On to Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines on Saturday. They suffered a 35-14 loss to Wisconsin. Wasn't even that close. At one point, Wisconsin was leading 35-0. Naturally, a lot of questions for Harbaugh following that loss. Here's what he had to say to the media yesterday.
You know, really from A to Z, wasn't good enough, and not acceptable. So starts really with not acceptable for me. We didn't play physical enough. We were out hustled. I put that. I take responsibility for that. In any ways that we were out schemed. Also take responsibility. That's it's my job to make sure that we're completely sound. Not a day we're proud of.
So, in short, every single thing that went wrong, he's going to admit to it being his fault. How hot is the seat for Jim Harbaugh right now, CC?
I think as far as the national media, it's a talking point. But the people in Michigan, the people making the decisions, the athletic director, I don't believe that he's taking applications. No, I believe he has a lot of confidence in Harbaugh. The board of trustees, these people, the board of regents, these are the people that make these decisions. No. Michigan, this is what they signed up for. When you go back and grab a coach who's had success in the NFL and he's an alumni of your university, you are stuck for a certain period of time. Now it's a matter of how long we're going to be stuck in this predicament we're in. Now, because right now, what is Harbaugh known for? You guys think he's a top 5 recruiter in the country? He's not. You think he's a motivator? Look at his press conference. He's not. How can you have 100 college kids and they play without emotion? Man, college football, it's all emotion. So the kids aren't responding to what he's teaching. How can you be out-schemed by Wisconsin? You know what they're going to do. They got 8 fat boys, and they're going to lean on you, and they got a little tailback that they're going to run. The same thing they've been doing the last 20 years. So when you're at a school and you get out-physicaled by Wisconsin, they have better athletes than you, and we know you got good prospects because we see the ratings every year, the recruits you're getting, and we watch the NFL draft. You still got kids that are playing on Sunday, high draft picks, drafted first day on rounds 1, round 2, and round 3. So this is a Harbaugh problem. But for me, the thing that is the most troubling is from an offensive innovation standpoint, he's given up the play calling duties. But when he was in San Francisco, he was known for physical offensive line play, the pistol formation he brought from Nevada, developing a quarterback, and these unbalanced lines. He does none of that at Michigan. So for me, he's a guy that doesn't have any type of identity, let alone the team not have an identity. What is Harbaugh great at right now? He's not calling plays. Their recruiting is not the best, and they're not going to be physical. So for me, I'm a little lost, but we got a petition in Columbus, Ohio. We're petitioning to give him an extension. We need to keep him. He's got free hospital services. We want to keep him alive and breathing so Ryan Day can pile up some of those wins that our guy Urban piled up against him.
This has been a disaster. And I was.
Why are you so sad, man?
Because I don't like.
You would think you would have went to school there or something.
I just don't like being wrong. And if the reason this is a little personal for me is my first time ever filling in for one Colin Cowherd years ago when I was first getting on television. I said very triumphantly and defiantly that if you don't tell me if you're coaching high school, college, or pro, you're just going to go coach football, and I can have my number one pick of anybody in the world, I'll take Jim Harbaugh.
For the next 10 years.
For the next 10 years.
So you had a little age in there.
I had a little
Nick
age in there.
And Belichick and them.
But I saw him succeed at Stanford, where no one had succeeded. Now David Shaw has succeeded at an even higher level. I saw him succeed at San Francisco. Now in the NFL, his brother was clearly the better coach then and now. And at the time, he had gotten to Michigan, and it looked like he was this close because they were this close, remember, to beating Ohio State, that fourth down game they ended up losing. Now you look back and you say, what is his best win at Michigan? It's a loss. It's when they came this close to beating Ohio State.
Yep.
Since he's been at Michigan, this is his 8th year, they are the only Power 5 school to not win a game as an underdog. Now, they're not underdogs that often, so they don't have as many opportunities, but to have never won a game as an underdog, to have never beaten your rival, to in your last 3 games against Power 5 schools, Ohio State, Florida, and Wisconsin, be outscored 138-68, to need overtime to beat Army, to be out of 130 teams, 97th in offense, 97th in rushing, 99th in passing efficiency, 119th in turnover margin. Joel Klatt said something during the game that I thought Joel's never wrong about this stuff, I thought he had to be wrong. It was early in the Wisconsin game. He said this is their 9th fumble of the year. I was like, it's their 9th quarter of the year. Right. They've had 9 fumbles. And part of that is coaching. You know who doesn't fumble the ball a lot? Alabama. You know who doesn't fumble the ball a lot? Well-coached teams. I don't know where it went wrong for Harbaugh because I do think he got the most out of those Niner teams. I do think he got the most out of those Stanford teams.
No doubt.
But this has been awful. I mean, awful. 40-15 at Michigan during, if we're being honest, a bit of a downtime in the Big Ten, aside from Ohio State's extended run of excellence, is unacceptable.
I know that he recruits the players, but how much of it is the players, the personnel, and how much of it is the coaching and what he's doing on Saturdays?
Jenna, this is the big difference between college and pro. On Saturday, college, it's the coach's fault. Especially when you're at a big school, a Power 5 conference, a national recruiting base, an alumni base, resources that are unlimited, unmatched. No, it's the coach. You have to be able to blame it on the coach. And if the players weren't getting drafted, if they weren't being all Big Ten, if they weren't 5- and 4-star recruits, then you could particularly look. But it's college. Typically, the blame goes to the coach. Jim Harbaugh has no one to blame. Now he's not calling plays. So what are you doing? Are you just a lead recruiter? You managing the game again? Like, they need to find some type of identity. And to me, when you can't develop a quarterback, and you are a former quarterback, that to me is a bigger indictment than losing the games when you're an underdog, or he's 1-6 against ranked opponents on the road. At some point, you got to win on the road, and at some point, you got to beat a ranked team.
You got to get a signature win. You got to beat your rival, or get a signature win, or win all the games you're supposed to. You're doing none of the above. At Michigan with the name of Jim Harbaugh, listen, I was just wrong on him, and it's just.
In Michigan, they got beautiful facilities. They got great uniforms. They're a Jordan brand team. But Jim Harbaugh and them khakis, it's not playing well with these young kids. Like he thought it was. It was cute when he was showing up at midnight, sitting down playing video games with kids. But it's not playing well.
Aaron Rodgers and the Packers
right.
are 3-0 for the first time since 2015. A great start for a team that's missed the playoffs in back-to-back seasons and for a quarterback who's been riddled with nagging injuries during that stretch. But this year, Rodgers is healthy. Rodgers is liking the vibe around the team and the vibe under new head coach Matt LaFleur.
All of us who've been here for a significant amount of time realize how different this feels. It's just a different energy. You know, it is palpable, it's contagious, it's charismatic, and it's fun. It really is. It's been a lot of fun. So it's obviously fun to win. We hold ourselves to a high standard offensively. We got to play better, but it's fun watching those guys on defense, you know. And we got to keep picking up our load and being a little more consistent, but it is a different vibe.
Why is Aaron Rodgers happy despite the fact that his offense hasn't played lights out so far this season because of how good their defense has been? Because they're undefeated. What did you think of what Aaron Rodgers had to say?
Well, I picked up a few things from the interview, and it's very interesting the things he had to say. For one, he talked about, for us veteran players that have been here, we sense that there's something different. So for me, it's not Aaron Rodgers, it's not his leadership. They changed kind of the mantra of this organization. This offseason, they went out and spent a lot of money. They also spent money on guys that have outgoing personalities. So when you spend that kind of money and you give that kind of guarantees to guys who are outgoing, when they come into a locker room, they're free to do whatever they want. They got guarantees. They're not walking on eggshells. Green Bay has been a very conservative team, not only as far as the lack of free agent participation, but in the personalities that they bring into that market. Green Bay is not like every other place. And this is the first time I've heard of a culture switch in Green Bay since Reggie White came there. When he changed the whole culture, changed how they were doing things, changed how they were cooking food, and they started trying to go after more African-American players. They brought in a barber from Milwaukee at the time. They would cut hair in the locker room because it was hard for the African-Americans to get a haircut. They had all different types of food that were catered into the locker room. So they made a conscious effort to realize that, you know something, we need to be more physical. We need a few more personalities around here. And Aaron, I picked it up in the press conference because they didn't change it. It's the outside influence, and you have to give the coaching staff credit for changing that. So I like what they're doing. This is the defensive-dominated team that we're not relying on Aaron Rodgers because we know the genie can come out of the bottle.
Well, that's...
Like, we know that. Like, break in case of emergency, we know Aaron can come out. But I'm glad that the coaching staff and Matt LaFleur, they're establishing this physicality. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to perform play-action pass. Most play-action pass that Aaron's had since 2012. Last time they had a top 10 defense, 2010. That's when they won their last Super Bowl. So I like what I see with the Packers.
Listen, I picked the Packers to go to the Super Bowl, and I'm not going to sit here and because of that pretend like the offense has been great. It has not. The offense getting you 265 yards per game. On third downs, they haven't been great. They've been 9 of 36. The offense has been good enough, given the fact that the defense has choked out 3 opposing quarterbacks in Trubisky, Kirk Cousins, and Joe Flacco.
Yeah, look at the 3 defenses, though, Nick.
Right. So that's exactly what I was going to lead to.
Yes.
And that Rodgers saying he's never felt this good after a game. The Packers could be 3-0 in an alternate circumstance where the offense has been asked to do a lot more, but Khalil Mack lit him up, and the Vikings' excellent defense lit him up. Denver, who this year hasn't been getting to the quarterback, but we know how good they can be. And Rodgers out here limping, and you feel differently
those 3
about it.
teams defensively will be 3 of the top 5 rushing teams as far as getting after the quarterback. And for him to come out of those games and saying, I'm fresh, great point by you.
Especially Chicago and Minnesota. Denver, for some reason, struggled this year getting to the quarterback. You would imagine eventually that'll fix itself. So unless you believe, and I know there's a small segment of the population out there that believes we have been into the Aaron Rodgers decline for a few years and no one wants to acknowledge it. I don't believe that. I think Aaron Rodgers is still, without question, one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football, if not one of the 3 best quarterbacks in football. If you believe the offense is going to continue to get better, that it's been a slow build because of defenses, because Rodgers didn't take a single snap in the preseason, because it's a new offensive system, and because the offense's job, because the Indians played so well, has been don't make the huge mistake. You know what I mean? Let's not lose the game when Cousins is doing nothing against us. We're up 21-0 to start that football game.
Yeah.
The Bears managed 3 points, and Joe Flacco and the Denver offense was never threatening the Green Bay Packers. If that's the case, they now get a banged-up Philly team on a short week in Green Bay to go through Chicago, Minnesota, Denver, Philly, and be 4-0 through the first quarter of the season without the offense fully clicking has to be, in some ways, the best-case scenario for Green Bay.
And I don't think you can emphasize the point enough. Aaron Rodgers is healthy. And the bulk and the brunt of that offense hasn't really been released or learned or sort of out there quite yet. So you have a healthy Aaron Rodgers for the first time in the last couple years without a sore shoulder and a bum knee, whatnot. And then you see what he and Matt LaFleur can do. And once that offense catches up to that defense, maybe your Super Bowl pick is correct.
And one other note for Rodgers that I think Matt LaFleur is kind of quietly doing that I think is keeping Rodgers happy, even though the offense hasn't been great. He's throwing basically the least he's thrown in his career. Through 3 weeks, he's either third fewest or second fewest as far as the number of attempts. Like, it's one of the fewest times he's thrown the football. But it's fourth most deep passes through 3 weeks. So he's not having him throw the ball a bunch, but he is letting him take 5 or 6 deep shots a game. And you know Rodgers...
Which he likes to do.
Absolutely. In the Denver game, the Aaron Rodgers free play, saw him off sides, took a deep shot downfield, jumped him out 7-0. Rodgers is careful enough with the ball. He's throwing no picks, letting him throw the ball deep downfield, even if they're going to rely on their defense and running game for the time being.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.